to the channel, guys. In a previous video I showed you how to install the front runner Slimline 2 roof rack on your Ford Ranger. Now following from that, I thought it would be quite good to show you guys how I did my dual light bar install. So let's get straight into the meat of it. So we previously had the ST4K on the truck, Slimline light bar. This is a 41.5-inch light bar and was installed with the roof rail brackets. Again, comes from Stedi, keeps everything nice and low profile, really nice look and nice addition to the truck. As soon as we got the front runner roof rack, I decided to upgrade to the ST4K. I always liked the look of a double light bar, especially the two singles. So that's kind of why we've gone with that kind of install. So what does that mean for the wiring and things like that? It means you're going to double up on all the wiring, and so we'll get into that in a second. So what do you actually get in the box? Now, so this is the 22-inch ST4K light bar, dual row. So in the box, you obviously get the lights, which is installed. You get your mounting hardware. So with the ST4K, you get two different types of mounting hardware. You get it's like a rail system. Now this will slot into a rail on the back of your light. So once you slot that in, you can move that whichever direction you need to, and then you've got another bracket in here that connects to that, and basically you can orientate the light sort of and move the light where you need it. So, and you also get the two side brackets which connect to the side of the light bar. These are all stainless steel components, so quite decent in terms of the componentry that sit on the light bar. So we've actually gone for the components on the sides, which are compatible with the roof rack itself. And then you get the smart harness, which is compiles of a 60 amp relay, all the wiring for your switching. You've got your positive negative current wiring in there, and then it got a connection to your piggyback connector. So we'll show you that when we get to the front of the truck. And in the box you get sort of simple wiring instructions, get some zip ties, and the basic componentry you need for your lights. And what we did is, when we sort of off season, we went and got the Stedi light covers, and these are quite nice. Just give a nice little look to the light and protects them when we're not using them. So let's head over to the front of the truck and we show you how we've done the install. Now before we talk about the wiring, I'm going to show you the mounting points that we had for the front runner roof rack. So these are the brackets that came with the kit. These are the stainless steel side brackets. We opted for these. It keeps everything nice and low profile. And then what you'll find is there's three different mounting locations for the actual for the light bar itself. And then to mount it into the actual roof rack itself, we use the main bolt that holds the side rail to the slat, the front slat. So the M8 bolt, and it fits perfectly through the bracket itself. So we kept that on this furthest most point to give the clearance between the light bar and the antenna on the front. And again, we've used the middle slot in the slat to mount the other bracket. So that's the install itself. And then from the light bar, the clearance from the light bar to the actual roof, we put in a foam insert just under the light bar, just so that if it does touch or rattle in any way, that it doesn't damage the roof in any way. It keeps everything well and protected. In terms of the color, Stedi don't do these colors. I basically painted this myself. I didn't have to take anything apart. I just taped the lights up, and then we just painted the actual surrounds and just made that theme going from the spotlights to the light bars, and just kept that theme going for the truck. So let's have a look at the wiring and how we've done that. So if you guys remember, a couple of videos ago, I did a accessory panel install, and I created the stainless steel brackets. And what I've done is I mounted both the relays for each of the light bars on there, so it keeps everything in one location. Well, I've got access to all my relays, all the fuses, everything there for all my accessories, so it made perfect sense to keep everything in one place. So these are your 60 amp relays that comes with the actual smart harnesses, and the smart harness will have its positive and negative connections, and which is nice and close to the battery. So the only thing that we had an issue with was the length of the wiring that went from the battery and your smart harness to the furthest most light bar. So we were about 500 mil short, because we want to keep all the wiring nice and neat and tucked away. So what we had to do is we had to extend that wiring just so we can feed it up to the furthest most light bar. And how we did that in terms of feeding the wiring, it's a very simple way of doing it. You don't have to drill any holes. I'm very much against drilling holes into cabs and things like that. One less thing to worry about and to mess up. So with the wiring itself, you've got the wiring for the light bar. It comes up these cavities in the bodywork here, goes next to the windscreen. And if you have a look on the outside here, you've got the wiring that runs along the windscreen, because you've got about an 8 to 10 mil gap on your windscreen, and we basically tuck the wiring in there. It runs all the way along, and then it runs around and it connects to your light bar, into your DH plugs. A very, very handy little place. And just to temporarily tack it in, all I did was just use a little bit of silicone just to keep it in there for now. And what happens is when the wiring heats up in the sun, it goes nice and supple, and then you can just get it in there. And once that's in there to your liking, you can just get rid of the white silicone and then just keep it sealed with a clear silicone, an outdoor silicone, so it doesn't sort of fade away, and that'll keep it all nice and tucked in, and it won't come out while you're driving. Okay, now that you've got your wiring squared away, the routes that we did, so you could use those routes to get the wiring to the other side of the engine bay. We've used the route basically behind this plastic cowl. So we just clip off all these little plastic clips, and then we just routed the cable behind there. It's nice and well protected. You've got a little foam insert here that keeps everything protected. It gets all the dust and the water, keeps that at bay. So that's a nice little route. It's out of sight and it's protected. So that's the cable that runs at the furthest most light bar, which we had to extend. When it comes to actually making both light bars work off one switch and it to work off one piggyback connector, we've had to splice the cables together. So if you have a look at the piggyback connector down here, so we've spliced the cables together and we've used good heat wrap. We've soldered all the cables together and used the heat wrap just to protect it and keep it all together. So now that's the piggyback connector, which is connected to the actual lighting module. So when we engage the high beams or the brights, then both light bars will engage and will energize. And exactly the same thing we did inside the cab with the isolator switch. We spliced the cabling together, used the heat sink, kept everything nicely protected together, and soldered those cables together. So that's probably the best way you can do it. So as long as everything's running off the two relays as we've kept it, each light bar has its own power supply, but it's all connected via one switch and one piggyback connector. So as soon as you engage those brights or those high beams, then both light bars will engage. So we'll show you that, how they operate. The biggest question you're going to have to ask yourself is where you're going to mount the switch. Now, before we had the accessory panel installed, we had to drill a hole into one of the covers, and we mounted our light bar switch down there. It was out of the way. However, if you are looking at getting a switch or a few switches into your cab, I highly recommend getting an accessory panel switch. It just minimizes the amount of drilling and invasive work you have to do to your cab, and it keeps the wiring at an absolute minimum when it comes into your cab. So the accessory panel, it just houses all those switches. So, however, in this particular occasion, we had to obviously drill a hole. So where I drilled mine was sort of where the USB location is. You can see it's all lit up there, and that isolates those light bars together, which is the easiest way we found. There are products in the market from Stedi and Lightforce, which is actually like a fascia panel that sits in this location here, and that has your different switches, which is a very, very nice, handy product to have, and you can run all your wiring to that location there, which is quite nice. So, but like I mentioned before, if you get yourself an accessory panel, you don't really have to worry about those kind of things. So I've left these 3 open, ready for some more accessories to come. When we've got the lights for the roof rack and camping lights, I'll start adding all my switches at that point. Yeah. So you have it, guys. Very simple install when it comes to the dual light bars. All you're doing is just doubling up on your wires, but the most important thing I can't reiterate to you guys is making sure that cables and your splicing and however which way you do it is done correctly, and you take the time and doing it the best way you can, or getting a professional to do it, making sure that the cables are properly soldered together and they're waterproofed and they're protected. It's nothing worse than, obviously, further down the line you have an electrical fire in your vehicle. It's incredibly dangerous, so don't play with electrics if you don't understand it. But in this particular case, it is a very simple install, just doing the switches and the piggyback connectors together. Overall, the look is awesome, and it's worked really well with the front runner roof rack, the way that everything has come together, how the color scheme has gone. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, let us know down below. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing and smash that like button, and we will see you guys in the next one.